Strong Dads wants to thank Quality Auto Mart for joining us as a sponsor. Quality Auto Mart was born in 1985. They are owned and operated by Mark and Nancy Repke. Quality Auto Mart provides all the services, repairs, and maintenance for your vehicle's needs with a 3-year auto parts and labor warranty. They offer complimentary vehicle safety inspection and estimates. Also, they offer a shuttle service, and the 4th oil change is always on them. They are located at 7307 on State Road 46 in Batesville, Indiana. Make sure you give them a call at 812-934-2301.
Welcome to Strong Dads. This is Merle Hutchinson, being joined by Kyle Crawford. How you doing, Kyle?
I am great.
You are at the end of your term.
I'm at the end of my sabbatical.
Yeah. As we record, this is your last day, isn't it?
Well, I go back Friday, so we're recording right now. So yeah, so I
But when this airs,
I'll be at work,
climbing ladders, tearing up,
doing it,
roofs.
I'm excited.
Putting out fires.
I'll tell you what. I told Jenny, wherever I may land when it comes to a job. Every November I am taking off. It is. Is
that really the truth? Right?
It is
no
the
matter
greatest
where
thing
you
ever. It is awesome.
Unless you start your own business, I want to see how that works for you.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Put me down every year in November. I will be off.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
You heard it. You write that down. All right.
So, how are you doing?
Man, doing good. We had a great Thanksgiving around here, and I haven't really talked with you since then, so that's been a while, but
I know.
We had a great Thanksgiving. Went out shooting with my son.
Oh, nice.
Doing some sporting clays. I sucked so bad. I don't know. Like, I couldn't hit anything. And I couldn't hit anything, and my son hit everything, so it just magnified it. We weren't even close. He was killing it, and I was getting killed.
I'm sure he just enjoyed it.
Really, it really hurt him to watch Pop suck so bad. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I could. The weather was good. I couldn't even think of a good excuse.
Yeah. The wind was blowing out of the south.
The only benefit was we had 5 people on our team, and I was number 2. So that's how bad our team was.
Wow. All right.
But that was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, had good family stuff.
Good deal.
But, we also had some hard stuff. And that's going to actually be part of our show today, some hard stuff again. And so maybe I'll ask you the question.
All right.
All right. The question is, do you honor your parents?
Man.
Do you honor your parents? It's a yes or no.
I was going to say, can I give myself a grade on this? Like an A through an F? I'm going to give myself a C+, maybe a B-.
Okay, so you're putting yourself on a spectrum there, on the range. Why would you say that?
Man, I have a great relationship with my parents. I really do. Very close to both my mom and my dad. There's definitely times I think, as I become a parent and a dad now, I think early on, I guess I felt a lot of, I don't know if it's pressure, but I felt like there was maybe some critiques coming their way, right, towards me. And it's one of those, as a parent, you got to kind of figure it out, right? You can read all the books, any manuals, you can listen to other people. At the end of the day, you kind of just got to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And Jenny and I kind of taking the stance that, like, advice is welcome, right? But unless we ask you, sometimes I really just don't want to hear from it. And sometimes, I'm probably in most relationships, I'm not so great at receiving. Sometimes I'm just like, okay, whatever, thanks, but no thanks, right? So I'd say, different situations, I feel like I do honor them in the sense of I feel like I'm the person I am because of them, and I get to live that out every day. But I also think sometimes when there's discussion or when we're talking, sometimes I'm just like, it's kind of funny because, I'll be like, Ava, don't roll your eyes at me. And I know that I roll my eyes at my mom and dad sometimes. So I'm going to say a C. Well, I'm going to downgrade to a C right now.
As you caught yourself right there, right?
I'm going to say a C, mom and dad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But what about you?
I would say I would probably go, if I'm using your grade scale, I would probably say a B+ or so. I would say a B+ for my dad. I would say probably a C+ for my mom.
Okay.
As I came into adulthood, and I think, it was easier for me to be around my dad.
Okay.
Because you could just talk more, I guess, stuff that he and I could both connect to. And I don't know, we could just get along. And it got harder for me to be around my mom. She's passed away in 2015, but prior to her passing, I would feel more guilt about how I treated her, and not for any good reason other than my mom always had a difficult time letting go of mothering. And that was always kind of annoying to me.
Sure.
And so it was just like, I know I need to talk to my mom or whatever, but all of a sudden I'm going to get that mothering thing. And so out of my own little selfish deal, I'd be like, I'll call her later. I'll call her later. So, I can't get those days back. It's not like I disrespected her or anything like that. It was harder for me to really like engage well in a healthy way with mom. So, but so why do we ask the question? All right. The bottom line here is, are we honoring our parents? And so normally, as strong dads here, we would talk about how we treat our kids and how we would expect our kids to honor us as their parents.
Yeah.
But we're flipping the script today. And we're flipping the script for a reason that I think is going to hit home with a lot of us, as you just heard Kyle and I talk about how we have done with our parents. But there's a reason why we need to actually take a look at this subject, because how we are. Our kids are watching us, bottom line, okay? And how we're treating our parents is going to come around full circle if we're not careful. So anyway, we're going to go down that road a little bit. But before we do that, let's thank a few people.
I like it. Strong Dads, we would like to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions for coming alongside of us. Check them out. They got awesome home decor. I'm sure the season up there, they probably got poinsettias, right? Poinsettias are in full swing right now.
Place.
Check them out. They got an awesome facility, home decor, landscaping needs. Let them know we sent you up there. Really do appreciate Casey's Outdoor Solutions.
All right. I also want to thank Quality Auto Mart for being a sponsor of Strong Dads. So for all your automotive needs, go out and see the Quality Auto Mart. As we speak, the Quality Auto Mart is being the succession plan is that now the kind of next guy in charge is taking it over. I don't know Fred's last name, but his name is Fred. He's actually been running the show for a while. And so Mark and Nancy Repke are slowly stepping out. And so you can go out there and ask for Fred, and he can help you out with any of your automotive needs or anything in that line. So go out and see those guys outside of Batesville, Indiana.
Good deal. Merle, we were just talking before. It's kind of crazy, the timing of this show, right? And so I think, it's when we did a little bit of kind of getting together and coming up with some topics, and we had come up with this topic, and very timely, kind of a crazy time frame. If you want to kind of take over and let us know kind of what's going on in your world. So
we put together our show list. This particular list we put together back in mid-August or so. Yeah. And this topic we put on the list. And, that we need to do something about how we're actually treating our parents.
Yep.
And so this week, I actually had to, as based on how timing would be, I had to put my dad in a nursing home. And that was the tough news you were talking about at the beginning of the show, right? Yeah. So that was the tougher part. And the decision was made. Actually, my dad got pretty sick, I don't know, probably 2 months ago.
Okay.
And had to go to the hospital. And he was not able to leave the hospital and go home because he needed more intermediate care than home could provide. And so we couldn't find a nursing home. There were no beds, no beds at all. And it got really kind of cruddy. And finally, there was one nursing home. And, my job is not to bash people on this forum, but it was a really piece of junk nursing home. And it was terrible. We had my dad in there, and we were like 3 days in. We're like, we're pulling him out. This is gross. It's ridiculous. The place is dirty. And so when we pulled him out, we kind of doubled down and took care of him at home. But we had a conversation about, okay, over the last 4 or 5 years, he's been in a nursing home 4, 5, 6 times, because every time he would get sick or he'd fall, he'd have to kind of rehab back.
Right.
And it was getting harder and harder to get him in nursing homes because there were no beds. So we started calling around the nursing homes and stuff, and all of them had waiting lists. And so we found in our area what we believed were the best of the nursing homes in terms of what my dad would be eligible for and what kind of services they would provide. And we put our name on the list. We put his name on there. And they said, we have no idea how long it's going to take. It could take weeks. It could take months. And so being on that list for 2 months or so, whatever that ended up being, I forget. But we got the phone call 2 days before Thanksgiving that they had a bed open. Now, wouldn't you know it, my dad was actually doing well. As far as his cognition was pretty good. Sure. He still couldn't walk, and he needed care with dressing and just going to the bathroom and all these things. But he was, he's healthy. And I was like, wow. So here it is, Thanksgiving. And I'm going to have to break the news to Pops here that he's going into a nursing home. And we really didn't have an option because it wasn't like, well, he's doing good right now, so let's just go ahead and pass this opportunity.
Right.
Well, you pass the opportunity, you may not get back on a list anytime soon. So it was this catch-22. And so anyway, my siblings and I said, we got to do it. So we were able to work out a little bit of a deal where he celebrated Thanksgiving with all of us, the family. We had our typical big Hutchinson Thanksgiving. But then that weekend after, this past weekend, we had to meet with him and break the news. And he's ornery, he's tough. And he looked at us and he said, I want to die here. I don't want to die there. And they got to this whole idea of honoring your parents, and it was a hard thing because he's never, he's been a good guy, been a great dad to us kids. Sure. But it was that honoring your father kind of thing that was banging on my head as I was writing this show and putting things together. Like, is this honoring him? And at the end of the day, I believe we made the right choice, but, who knows? We made the choice not based off of convenience because we were working out deals to take care of him, but he would just get up and walk. And fall on a regular basis. He'd mess himself on a regular basis. He couldn't clothe himself. And it was just to the point it was just dangerous. And he'd fallen multiple times, and we felt greater responsibility for all his falls.
Right.
So, at the end of the day, did we honor him? He would probably right now say, no, you didn't, because he's not real happy right now in this couple of days afterward, but we're just praying that we did the right thing. So anyway, that's kind of the deal. Like, at some point in time, as a family, you will come to these types of decisions. And that's where we were. I mean,
isn't it kind of like full circle, right? So, I mean, there's sometimes, like, I'm sure you can attest, and you guys out there, where like you are doing something for your kids and your kids are not happy about it, right? And you feel like, well, I know what is best, right? And because of your perspective on things. And now it's kind of like full circle where you're doing something for your dad, and he's obviously not happy about it. And it's like you're trying to make the best decision with the information, with what you have. And man, that's a tough one. And just wrestling with the idea of making sure that we do honor our parents and we are honoring, what God really wants for us and how in which we do that. So yeah, man, that's a tough thing. Thanks for sharing that, because I know stuff like that's probably not very easy.
Yeah, no, it wasn't easy, but unlike some families, I don't know, my family comes together, my siblings and I, none of us would ever, you couldn't accuse us of saying, well, just put him in the nursing home and park him there. And no, I mean, the nursing home will be sick of us visiting.
Because you guys have taken an active role through the
all
whole
the
process.
way through. And so it's not that. It is a matter of care.
Yeah.
Getting him the right care and the safety. And so anyway, here's kind of the deal. Okay. Let's roll this into what this means to us and why we need to consider this topic. And if we're not doing well, maybe we need to think about what the implications are. Okay. First off, it's the fifth commandment. And the fifth commandment is honor your father and mother. Okay. There's a reason for that. And the reason you might see it in the immediate, like, well, it's just a nice thing to do. But it's actually way bigger than that. The 10 Commandments are not just for making people happy in the moment. The 10 Commandments are for a societal benefit.
Yeah.
So that we can keep the population, the civility, the society growing in a healthy way. And so honor your mother and your father is not so mommy and daddy can smile and be proud of you because you say you have good manners.
Right.
I mean, that might be a nice benefit, but
Sure.
that's not what it's about.
Right.
What it's about is the idea that we learn to take care of one generation after the next, all right? And so if you want to see a society fall apart, watch what happens when you start to see a neglect or even dishonoring of the generations above and below you, all right? And so what we have seen in the last 50, 60, 70 years is I would say a guilty neglect, like, well, like dad's in the nursing home, but I know he's being taken care of. And we don't engage. We just sort of go visit almost as an obligation, right? And we go do our thing. We're busy, right? We're running our businesses. We're I'm so important. Do you know how important I am? And so that's how I get my head all spun up. And maybe if I got a little extra time, I'll go over there and see Dad, or I'll go visit him if he lives away. Here's the problem. Your kids are watching. Your kids are watching. And so as I've done this past week, my kids have been involved in at least hearing this process. And I'm giving them an example, good or bad, it's an example of what I'm probably going to be seeing at some point in time in my life. In other words, how they're going to treat me.
Yeah.
And, we've made the discussions very open. Like our kids have been very aware of the thought processing of whether dad goes to the nursing home or not, or all these things, so that our kids kind of know that this was just not, put him in a nursing home. And because this is going to circle back around on us.
Yeah, so true, so true. As we look through, you're talking about the 10 Commandments, and the fifth one, being that you're supposed to honor your mother and your father. I mean, if you look through Scripture, you were kind of jotting down this in Romans, man. I think if you're looking for kind of a great, Scripture to look at this idea of making sure we're honoring, our parents and what we're doing, man. If you dive through, and like I said, in Romans 1:18 through 32, obviously, a big chunk of Scripture, but kind of the back end of that Scripture talks a lot about, the morality issues and how God's wrath is going to be shown on the people who don't, follow suit with what God's will is and what He wants, and part of that is it's talking about disobeying your parents and what that looks like and the devastation that causes. On the show all the time we talk about the generational effects and just what you were talking about, how crazy it is that how we are treating our parents. We should expect that in full turn on how our kids are going to continue to treat us, and as we become of age, where you're kind of out of that parent role, and you're more into that friendship role with your kids, and how they're going to be treating us, and then their kids they're going to see that, and it's just this perpetual cycle that, man, if we don't actually take very serious right now, the effects that we're going to see, again, we're going to just continue to make that snowball bigger and bigger because of what's, like you were saying, what has gone on for so many generations now.
Yeah, like you just said, like in Romans, that Romans 1, that whole, the title of that is God's wrath against sinful humanity. And if you read through that, it talks about what happens when people start to turn away from taking care of each other.
Yeah.
And why would you turn away from each other? Well, you got to take care of yourself. You're too busy with yourself. And so all of a sudden the sinful natures start to come up. But then it says God lets you go over to that, right? Because that's a free will. And so He lets us go into those. And then all of a sudden He starts to list in that passage all the things that we do, everything, just the sin that we start to get mucked down in. And then one of the final things He talks about, I think this is in, let me find this, it's in 30, verse 30. They're slanderers, God-haters, insolent, arrogant, and boastful. They invent ways of doing evil. They disobey their parents. They have no understanding of of love, no mercy. They know God's decrees that those that do such things deserve death. They not only continue to do these very things, but they also approve of those who practice them. Yeah. The idea here is it deteriorates. Mm-hmm. The whole idea, the idea that you no longer care about anyone except for yourself. And you can see that right in how you treat your family, the generation above you, the one that cared for you. So, again, just another telltale sign.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. If you look through the history of a history of time, every entity, every empire that's ever fallen, one of the last things that is given up in those societies is morality. Yep. And this whole Romans 1:1 talks about God's wrath about sinful humanity. Just when morality falls, when you do not have the moral, ethical compass inside of you to know right and wrong. I remember people used to say, "Oh, that's just common sense." Right. Well, common sense now is almost a relative term. Everything is kind of, it's very relative. What is common sense anymore? And I think taking care of your parents and honoring your parents could be looked at as exactly the same. It's a kind of a relative term anymore. And it's sad because God clearly shows us that we are supposed to honor our parents and supposed to be doing what is right by them because, again, our kids are going to be watching that.
Yeah. So let's talk about, all right, we've tried to make the case here of why we need to do this because it's going to come back in some fashion, whether positive or negative. It is going to come back to present itself to us. We're going to be on the receiving end of this. So let's talk about what we can do. And so I've broken this down into a couple of different points, okay? I think the very first thing that we need to do is we need to understand why we have to honor the generations above and below us, okay? Why we need to do this. It doesn't always make sense in the immediate, and especially if you just don't get along with them, all right? Like, you can butt heads. Now, my mom and I always got along. That wasn't the problem. But there was just this, it was just kind of mom's trying to mother again, okay? Yeah. And so, but honoring does not mean you're going to be like best buddies with them.
Right.
Honoring means, you're going to respect them. You're going to take care of them. You're going to show them that love and attention the way they need to be. And if they need things, you're going to serve them.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy here in America that idea of taking care of our parents is not like it is. I know there's many cultures across the world that is like a part of the culture. You will take care of your parents when they become of age. Mm-hmm. And I don't know this for sure, but I mean, the whole idea of a nursing home or the whole idea of definitive care outside of your own home is not a normal thing. They're going to come and they're going to live with us. They're going to be part. And again, not to say that's right or wrong, but there's definitely something to be said about honoring your parents and what that looks like for those different societies.
Yeah. Another point to that is the idea. Well, why? Why has that happened? Well, we are the most comfortable country in the world. Mm-hmm. When I say comfortable, like we have all kinds of things to make us comfortable, the homes that we live in and just the amenities that we have. And so the more comfortable that we get on our own, the less we have to survive on other people's works, okay? And so what happens is we start to detach from the need to be with others. My survival is not based on what you do,
sure,
okay? And at least in my mind, I start to believe that. As I was watching and thinking about this, like with my own dad and how we've just kind of gone our own way. Like I said before, I'm so busy, I got plenty to do. I can't be thinking about him. 60 Minutes had a special on the Ukrainian people over the weekend here. And wow, that is humbling. Those people are so dependent on each other right now.
Yeah.
The electric grid has been shut down and now is at least, even when it's working, it's as fragile as it can be. They're coming into the heart of winter. People are freezing.
Sure.
Food supplies are minimal. Medical supplies are minimal. And so you have families going, we better come together.
Looking inward.
Yeah, they're looking inward because they may not be able to get their comfort. The idea of I can just kick back in my recliner and I don't care what the rest of the world does, that's not happening. Right now, people are actually going out and they're scrapping up some firewood and they're figuring out, okay, you go over here and see if you can get some food or water. We'll go over here. And it's whole families coming together to do these things in these pockets throughout Ukraine. And I thought, wow, right now they have to take care of each other.
Yeah.
Because if you don't take care of somebody, you ultimately are not going to be taken care of. In other words, because that guy might go get firewood, but you're going to go get bread.
Right.
If he doesn't get the firewood, you're going to freeze, and he's going to starve to death.
Right.
And so it's a totally different awareness now that they have that we don't have here. By and large, we don't have it because we're so comfortable.
Well, I think it just goes back to the whole idea of perspective, right? They have a gravely different perspective on what it looks like to take care of one another. We may think we're doing it, but again, just like you were saying, the comforts that we have in this country, we kind of miss that perspective that obviously the Ukrainians are dealing with right now. But man, as we kind of move through this, let's get into kind of the whys of why it's important to honor our parents and what that's going to look like for us. And you kind of broken this down to three different things, and I think they're spot on. Man, the first one that we've alluded to before, but our kids are watching us. Our kids are watching us in most things, if not all things that we do in life. Our kids are watching us, and our kids are going to either emulate what we're doing or they're going to do the complete opposite, right? And the hope is that if we are actually honoring our parents, that they're watching and they're going to do that for us. They're going to be, in returning the favor to us. So, man, I just think we're talking to you strong dads out there and just challenging, you guys out there to along with ourselves, as we're saying these, we're also talking to ourselves that this idea that as we speak, man, our kids are listening to the way in which we speak to our parents and about our parents. Man, I can't think of a worse thing to do than to sit there and bash, Ava and Mia's grandparents.
Yeah.
Like, what would that look like? Well, that would be devastating to them, because then when they look at their grandparents, they're going to have a skewed look. They're going to have kind of this negative outlook on their grandparents. And man, I don't know what it's like to be a grandpa. I'm sure you do, right? But it's just like, I can't imagine having my grandkids not think of me as their hero, right?
Yeah.
Not think of me as awesome. And it starts with the way in which you're speaking about your parents in front of your kids and speaking to your parents while your kids, I can't tell you the number of times Ava's like, Daddy, I heard you cuss on the phone. And like, even when I'm not talking to them, right? I'm talking to someone else. They don't even know who I'm talking to.
Right.
They're still listening.
Yeah, man, that is such a huge thing. Like you talked about the idea of how you talk about your parents, their grandparents in front of those kids, right? The idea there, because you're their hero at that time, whatever you say, that casts the mold for their grandparents. And if you think grandma's a pain or whatever, that will trickle right into them, right? But here's the kicker. What happens when they start treating or talking that way about you when they're an adult? Like, because there's a good chance that you won't exactly be on the same page on every topic with your kids, right? And so when there's that dissension and your kids learn that it was okay to talk just maybe not negative, but certainly not positive, that's going to trickle down into their kids. And so here we start the cancer of the family through generations, all because we were not aware of how we were adding to the problem. I think it's important that we think about it.
Well, I can't tell you the number of times where it's like someone will point something out about just somebody, right? Be like, hey, man, that guy chews with his mouth open. And that's all you notice now, right? That's all you know. And it'll be the same thing if you and your spouse sit around and you talk about your parents in a negative light, then our kids are going to hear that. And that's all they're going to see when they see their grandparents.
Yeah. The second point, there's a second reason why we need to be more aware of this. So the first one was because your kids are watching. The second one, and that one is a little bit more immediate. Your kids are watching. So in your lifetime, that will come back. When I say immediate, that's going to be in your lifetime. But the second one is not a joking matter. Not if you're a Christian, not if you're calling yourself a strong dad, okay? The second one is God is watching. And he is watching how cancer works through his humankind that he created, okay? And so I think it's really important that his way for life is not to be mocked. He's created nature and its flow and how he desires it to work well. And one of the things is he's created a very strong way for humans to interact successfully. But he also gave us that free will, all right, that gives us the opportunity to deny him. And so if we choose to do that, it's not like he turns a blind eye to it. He actually says, well, you can go ahead and do it. I mean, you have the choice. But I truly do believe that you will pay for the cancer that you're spreading, all right? And you will pay for it here on this earth by the destruction of family. But I think there's going to be a judgment for that against you someday when it's like, you did nothing well to keep a healthy family cycle moving. You were a destruction. You were that cancer seed within your own family. Even though you thought of yourself as this great guy, maybe not so much.
Yeah. The crazy thing is, Merle, we've done, early on when we started this podcast, we did kind of a little series of different things that are required of a strong dad that you have to have. And one of those was provision and protection. And man, and we talked about that kind of in the reference to our family and our kids and the way, we're providing, we're protecting for our family. Man, I think the exact same thing could be said about us in the way in which, for what you're doing right now, again, with your dad, it's hard to see, the immediate, right, that you're trying to protect your dad, right? He's got some health concerns and you're just not able to take care of it. So you have to protect him and you have to move him into a facility that's going to be able to do that. And I think, the provision and protecting our family, it definitely applies to the way in which we're treating our parents.
Yeah. 1 Timothy 5:8 says, anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Has denied the faith. The faith is what the word of God, okay? And I think that's important because you didn't create nature. You didn't create on how the flow of life should be for humans, all right? And God and his word spells it out for us. And I think it comes back to bite us when we just don't do it his way.
Yep. Yeah, this next one is man, it's crazy. Last night we were just talking about something very similar to this, and this idea that Satan is watching. So why should you honor your parents? Because Satan is watching. We were talking last night in my small group. We were in Acts and talking, and there's demon-possessed people that are attacking people who are the closest to God. And going after the closest people to God, and kind of not that these demon possessed people are not attacking people who don't know Christ and don't know God, but they're really going after the people who do know who this God guy is. And man, I think this is so true and so evident today in our world, the whole idea of spiritual warfare. Man, I think this idea that Satan is watching you, Satan knows the kind of buttons he can push, because he knows that if he can just put that little wedge in that relationship between you and your parents because of the dishonor that you've shown to them, that he knows that wedge is going to continue to amplify and get bigger and bigger, and then it's going to, in return, have that wedge that's going to be put in between you and your kids as you continue to get older.
Yeah. Why would your kids want to honor you when they watch you dishonor your parents? The first time that your kids don't like something that you did or said or how you approached it, it'll be very easy for them to say, well, you know what, I don't need him because of the example. But if they saw you wrestle with your differences with your own parents and handle them well, and they learned early that, well, no, my dad taught me early that we need to respect and get through this stuff and get through it well so that we can take care of each other, then they're more likely to do that with you, okay?
Yeah.
And then again, generation to generation. So I think it's really important. Satan's watching, and Satan is attuned to the ways of warfare as anyone. And as we've said so many times, seldom is Satan working in a nuclear fashion where he just blows everything up at one time. He usually, I would think of it as more of a cancerous way. It's a slow eating and destruction, so that over time you finally go, how did we get here?
Yeah.
And that's how you look at things in culture today. It's like, how did we get to this point where we have people disrespecting each other, people just disregarding others, fighting all the time over silly, stupid stuff? Well, it happened a little at a time, and this is a very primary area where it actually is happening when us folks who right now in our middle age are dishonoring our own parents, and our kids are watching every move of it.
Yep, man. I can't tell you, that as I'm just thinking of this, I'm sure there's you guys out there have prayed for patience before with your kids, have prayed with your spouse about, God, if we just have patience with our kids and how they're acting, whatever. Well, I do know this because I truly do believe in spiritual warfare. Satan is also listening to those exact same prayers, right? He's listening to the exact same thing when you're speaking, and I think he's going to show up every single time, just like God is going to show up, right? He's going to show up, and he's going to be like, oh, you want a little bit of patience? Well, here you go, right? I'll give you a heavy dose of that patience, right? And I'm going to really test to see how much patience you really have. So I think the idea that God is watching, which is awesome to know, but also very scary to know, is the exact same. Satan is watching, which is awesome to know, but also very scary.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to wrap it up, guys. First off, I want you to know, this is not to be a beat down kind of show. It's hopefully an awareness show. Hopefully an awareness of just how you have been treating your own parents, but what you have been demonstrating to your kids in terms of that relationship with your parents. And so I would challenge you to just take a look at it. Take a look at how do you talk about your own parents? How do you talk about your in-laws? Okay. And so you might talk well about your parents, but the in-laws you talk poorly about, guess what? Those are still the grandparents of your kids. Okay. So it's extremely important that, this is that idea. If you can't say anything good, don't say anything at all. Right. The idea that you better watch your mouth, because we still have to honor so that our kids learn the whole purpose in honoring. All right. So remember, 3 reasons why we have to start doing this better. Our kids are watching, God's watching, and Satan's watching. And if we want to prevent this destruction, this cancer from growing, we have the means to start it right now. But we have to be aware of it.
Yep. There's going to be plenty of opportunities, I'm sure, in the very near future with the holiday season coming around for you to dishonor or for you to honor your parents. So let's try and make the most of that as we head into the Christmas season. So looking forward to opportunities to challenge myself to make sure I'm instead of a C, Mom and Dad, I'm going for a B+, maybe an A.
Let's just go for the A.
Okay, let's just go for the A. All right, I like it.
All right. So hopefully you guys enjoy or at least appreciate the topics that we're doing in the topic today. Hopefully it made some sense to you. If you're in this situation, don't listen to it. Maybe at least have some thought about it. I think the biggest compliment that we can get is when we hear guys say, you made me think. Because that's part of the process of growing, that you at least have an awareness of what's going on. So we want to thank our sponsors again. We want to thank Quality Auto Mart. I'm starting to sound
I'm not the only one
like you, yeah. And Casey's Outdoor Solutions for sponsoring the Strong Dads podcast.
Good deal. Yeah, I hope you guys are having a good week. Go out there and be some strong dads.
Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.